If you're drawn to the darkest corners of human nature, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and stay close, because stories like this don't let go once they begin. The glass lay shattered on the kitchen floor, its contents soaking into the grout like a silent confession. Patrol lights washed the walls in red and blue as detectives stepped carefully around the mess, their eyes locked on the body slumped against the counter. The victim hadn't collapsed at a bar or in a back alley. This had happened at home, quietly, intimately, and whatever had killed them hadn't left a mark. The call came in just after midnight, a sudden illness, violent symptoms, then nothing. By the time paramedics arrived, it was already over. The air still smelled faintly of citrus and alcohol, the last traces of a drink that should have ended the night like any other. Instead, it ended a life. Within hours, investigators realized this wasn't natural. Toxicology flagged something strange, something that didn't belong in a casual drink poured to unwind after a long day. The substance was colorless, nearly tasteless, deadly in the right dose. Whoever used it knew exactly what they were doing. Detective Aaron Wolf stood at the scene longer than most. 15 years on the job had taught him that the most dangerous crimes weren't loud or chaotic. They were calm, planned, personal. He studied the glass shards, the bottle on the counter, the single chair pulled back as if someone had stood up too fast. There were no signs of forced entry, no struggle. This wasn't a break-in, it was an invitation. The victim's phone buzzed on the counter, missed calls, texts that stopped mid-conversation. One name appeared again and again near the top of the screen, a woman who, until recently, had been respected in town, a former restaurant owner, someone who built a career around food, hospitality, and trust. Her name surfaced quickly in interviews. Friends described her as meticulous, intelligent, and deeply private. She had once run a popular restaurant known for handcrafted cocktails and loyal regulars, but the business had closed under murky circumstances, lawsuits, quiet disputes, relationships that ended badly. People remembered arguments whispered behind kitchen doors, smiles that never quite reached her eyes. When detectives knocked on her door, she didn't panic, she didn't cry. She listened, calm, controlled. She said she'd shared a drink with the victim earlier that evening, just one, a casual visit, nothing unusual. But Wolf noticed something small, something most people would miss. Her hands shook when she said the word drink. The lab results came back before dawn. The substance found in the victim's system was rare, industrial, and lethal and metabolized. Not something you stumble across by accident, not something you confuse with sugar or salt. This was deliberate. As the sun rose, officers returned to the former restaurant owner's home with a warrant. They searched the kitchen, the garage, the basement. Everything looked clean, almost too clean. Then one technician paused near a locked cabinet tucked behind shelves of old bar supplies. Inside, they found a sealed container with a chemical label scratched nearly blank and a receipt dated weeks before the death. But that wasn't what made the room go silent. It was the second glass, wrapped carefully in a towel, hidden at the back of the cabinet. Detective Aaron Wolf stared at the second glass, its edges glinting under the fluorescent kitchen light. Whoever had placed it there had wanted to hide it, but not completely destroy it. It was almost like a trophy, a secret waiting to be discovered. For Wolf, that glass transformed the case from a tragic death into something chillingly personal. This wasn't just murder, it was a message. Interviews with friends, neighbors, and former employees painted an unsettling portrait of the suspect. She was calm under pressure, sharp as a razor, but beneath the poised exterior lurked a meticulous, calculating mind. Those who had worked for her described sudden outbursts over trivial mistakes, subtle manipulations that kept everyone on edge, and rumors that lingered about her involvement in a strange series of accidents over the years. No one had ever suspected murder until now.
Wolf's team combed through her past. They discovered something disturbing, an old cold case from nearly 20 years earlier, another death, another unexplained illness, another drink. At first, it had been written off as an accident, but now, with modern forensics, investigators saw patterns emerging, patterns that pointed to someone who had been planning, experimenting, and perfecting her methods for years. The victim's family couldn't understand how someone they had trusted could be capable of such calculated cruelty. Leila Levis had been vibrant, full of life, unaware of the danger that had been sitting across from her just hours before her death. Her last words, whispered in casual conversation, would haunt the detectives and her family alike. "She's always so careful. I don't know why I didn't see it coming." Wolf pored over security footage from nearby shops and traffic cameras. Every movement of the suspect that night was precise, deliberate, almost ritualistic. She had left her home earlier than she said. She had stopped by the grocery store, buying ingredients that could mask the taste of the poison. She returned home, blended the chemical with care, and served the fatal drink with a smile. On tape, she looked ordinary, approachable, like a friend offering comfort. Yet the footage betrayed her calm facade, hinting at a mind racing through steps of cold calculation. When Wolf finally confronted her with the evidence, she didn't deny anything. Instead, she smiled faintly, almost as if she were daring them to prove it. She spoke in measured tones about justice, mistakes, and lessons learned, but the meaning behind her words remained a riddle. Every answer raised more questions than it resolved. But the true shock came from the basement of her home. Investigators had returned, following the faint scent of chemicals that lingered in the cool air. Behind a false panel in the corner, they discovered a small notebook, pages filled with names, dates, and carefully calculated doses. Some entries were cryptic: experiment successful, next phase planned, observation complete. Each line made Wolf's stomach turn. She hadn't just poisoned one person, she had studied it, perfected it, and recorded it like a scientist documenting a breakthrough. Then, in the middle of the notebook, Wolf's eyes caught something that stopped him cold. A new name, one he hadn't expected. Someone still alive, someone close to the first victim. That name meant she wasn't finished. The investigation was far from over, and the clock was ticking. Wolf knew one thing for certain: catching her wouldn't be enough. There was a network of secrets, betrayals, and hidden motives that stretched beyond this single death. And as they prepared to dig deeper, the detective realized that the true horror hadn't even begun to reveal itself. When they opened the next drawer in her study, what they found changed everything. The drawer yielded a collection of carefully labeled bottles, vials, and containers, each one a silent testament to a mind obsessed. Some held chemicals so rare and dangerous they could kill a person in minutes. Others contained harmless liquids, clearly decoys, perhaps to confuse anyone who dared investigate. Wolf felt a chill as he realized the scope. This was not a single crime of passion, but a meticulously planned operation spanning years. The notebook and the vials together formed a map of her intent. Victims, past and present, were marked with subtle annotations, times, methods, and, chillingly, motives she had constructed in her own mind. Some entries suggested revenge against old acquaintances, betrayals she had never forgiven, and perceived slights that had festered into deadly precision. Wolf and his team moved quickly to alert the authorities. They identified the living person listed in the notebook and raced to warn them. The suspect, however, seemed always one step ahead. Surveillance footage showed her leaving her home late at night, vanishing into the darkness before officers could intervene. Each movement suggested an uncanny awareness of every investigation, every lead, every potential threat. She wasn't just a murderer, she was a strategist, playing a long game. Interviews with neighbors revealed unsettling patterns: lights flickering in the dead of night, hurried deliveries that no one could explain, and an air of quiet paranoia that masked something far more sinister. Friends who had once described her as charming now admitted to feeling a subtle fear whenever they were around her. The same woman who had poured drinks in kitchens, who had once served cocktails with a smile, now seemed capable of orchestrating death with the same meticulous care. Then came the breakthrough. A forensic chemist analyzing residues from her kitchen discovered trace amounts of the same deadly chemical in containers labeled as benign. A pattern emerged. She had been experimenting, refining, perfecting her methods for years. Each accidental death, each unexplained illness suddenly fit into a chilling timeline of practice and preparation. Wolf realized the gravity of what they were dealing with. This wasn't just a single case, it was a series of planned attacks that spanned decades. Authorities prepared charges, multiple counts of first-degree murder, attempted murder, distribution of toxic substances, and conspiracy. Every piece of evidence connected her. Every lead reinforced the conclusion. She had chosen her victims deliberately, each one a calculated risk in a game only she understood. The final confrontation was tense. Surrounded in her home by law enforcement, the former restaurant owner did not resist. She smiled faintly, her calm demeanor unshaken. "You'll never truly understand," she said, almost as if proud. Wolf noted that she wasn't remorseful. She was methodical, cold, and frighteningly self-assured. Her arrest closed the chapter legally, but the psychological impact lingered. The victim's family struggled to reconcile the woman they thought they knew with the predator she had become. Wolf, despite years on the force, found himself staring at the case files late into the night, haunted by her meticulous planning and the casual ease with which she ended lives. And then came the twist no one saw coming. 3 months after her arrest, a familiar chemical signature appeared in the local hospital. Another victim, another near-fatal poisoning. This time, someone Wolf never expected. The case was not over. They thought the killer was behind bars, but the poisoner's web had threads that reached far beyond the walls of her home. And as Wolf looked at the latest lab reports, he realized one terrifying truth. Some monsters never truly stop, and the darkness they leave behind never fully fades. If you thought this story was intense, stay tuned, because the next revelation could be closer than you think.